Welcome home. Welcome back to this community. I'm Beth Hayward. I'm minister amongst ministers, and we gather here on the traditional and unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. Everyone in this place has been vaccinated and is wearing their mask. You can sing out as the Spirit moves. My problem, from a faith point of view, with trucker protests, with freedom protests, if I insist that my freedoms, however I define them, are the most important thing, and don't acknowledge that actually our collective freedom matters the most. Who wants to live in a world where my story and my needs are the only thing that matters, and whatever happened to following a way that says life is worth catching one another?
I feel sad because of what I see happening in Ottawa with the so-called trucker protest.
I found myself being enraged at what was happening at some point, and I don't live in earshot of the horns.
Organizers of the so-called Freedom Convoy, who were blockading downtown Ottawa last week, said that they were doing so because in a democracy, one has a right for peaceful protest. The same organizers seem to have conveniently forgotten that another bedrock of democracy, if not its very definition, is that the minority agrees to go along with the will of the majority. They do not speak for the trucking industry in any verifiable way. They are a fragment of a fragment, a minority who wishes the majority to bend to their will.
I was struggling with this idea of the Freedom Convoy in the first place, that these people are the heroes who put the food on our table and get things to us. To me, in my mind, a hero is someone who saves a life. We have food in our country, and we can figure out ways to get it to the table. We can figure out how to get it onto the grocery shelves. We can do that.
I'm talking about self-serving politicians and protest organizers bent on attacking journalists, undermining science, and chipping away at the foundations of civil society. All of them, I believe, are purveyors of misinformation, disinformation, conspiracy theories, and junk science. I believe these politicians and organizers pose an existential threat to our health, our democracy, and our country, a threat that continues to grow stronger every day. What started out as mostly a benign freedom convoy of truckers protesting vaccine mandates and periods of quarantine morphed into something quite different.
I have some friends in the downtown core of Ottawa. When I join them on a phone call or by Zoom, all I hear is horns blaring in the background. Constant noise. Symbols that regularly assault you using a visual language of hate.
I can't ignore the flags and other symbols of hate.
One man came up and said, "You think we're all the alt-right, hey? You think we're all white supremacists?" And I said, "Well, that guy's holding a white supremacist flag. It's a yellow flag that says, 'Don't tread on me.'" And he said, "That's not a white supremacist flag. That's a freedom flag." I guess that's where the problem starts. You got someone with a white supremacist flag and you don't admit it.
There were made available for protesters baskets of badges that had yellow stars of David on them.
Nazi swastikas everywhere.
For anyone who invokes God as a basis for rejecting the vaccine and subsequently dies of COVID, may you be greeted at the pearly gates, not by St. Peter, but by St. Luke. In case you didn't get that slightly esoteric reference, according to tradition, St. Luke was a physician.
As an educated, gainfully employed, white, married, middle class, triple vaccinated, mask compliant Canadian male, it's not hard to submit yourselves for the Lord's sake to the governing authorities when the system largely benefits you. What about when the governing authorities have established a system and laws that unjustly and intentionally oppress or suppress the people or a portion of the people? Maybe it's the Black community, or it's the Indigenous community, or it's Jews. And let's be honest, this is how many in the unvaccinated or anti-mandate community feel these days about the powers that be in our country. I don't agree with that assessment.
Personally, I don't buy it. I don't see any sense of serving the common good, any sense of social justice, solidarity with those oppressed in society. Yes, we are tired of pandemic. Of course, we can consider changing the public policy in favor of less restrictions, but protesting against wearing masks or vaccination is too much for me.
More than a few people noting the difference in how these mostly white protesters are being treated by police and politicians, compared with how black and indigenous protesters have been treated in recent months. I'm under no illusion then that despite how they feel, the protesters are not the voiceless, blessed poor in Jesus' system. Quite the opposite. Jesus says the kingdom of God belongs to the voiceless like them, those who aren't fooled by illusions of their own personal power.
All of the churches in the parish of Mississippi Lake will return to in-person worship. We'll be looking for proof of vaccination, so please be aware of that.
What we are witnessing is an unruly display of frustration by people fed up with the pandemic, as we all are. I know that I am. But frustration is not what's going to stop the pandemic and allow us to return to some measure of normalcy. Vaccines are. Vaccines are. Keep going. The way these protesters are, and the only ones left smiling in the end will be the COVID variants.
I don't believe that we are asking anything more of our truckers. We're not asking anything more of them than they do their job and do it safely, which we're all trying to do. And I do believe that means getting vaccinated. Yes, well, we can still, those of us who are vaccinated and boosted, we can still pick up the virus and hence then give it to others. At least if we're all vaccinated, we have less of a chance of becoming so ill that we end up in the hospitals putting pressure on those real heroes, doctors and nurses and x-ray technicians and the blood techs, all of the people in the labs and the custodians who are cleaning up those messes laden with COVID-19 virus.
So what would Jesus do? He would look at the victims. Now, who are the victims here? I think we can see that victims may be the people who can't get into hospitals because non-vaccinated people are taking up that space.
If public health officials in every province, authorities in every jurisdiction, and experts in every medical school, every virologist and every epidemiologist, if all of these agree on what is true, and when it has been demonstrated all around the world that when you do not accept this truth, virus spreads, illness increases, deaths go through the roof. When all that is true, agreed to by so many others, is thought to be simply false by politicians, pastors, truckers, well then we have to say truth is at stake. It is Pilate, that vile and violent Pilate, who dismisses truth when he rhetorically says, what is truth?
Here's the thing. Do you smoke inside buildings? No. Do you wear a seatbelt? Yes. Do you stop at red lights and stop signs? Mostly. Why? Because the government makes laws for public safety and health. And because decent people in civilized societies show respect and care for their neighbors, even if it's not the law. You can't make me is the response a kid having a tantrum gives to his parents who are trying to teach him to be a responsible, good, and caring person. Let's live in hope that the Spirit of God will again, recapture the hearts and minds of the men and women who have obviously lost it.
God, people are divided. Please bring us together and help us remember that everyone is great in every way possible.
Please bring us together and help us remember that everyone is great in every way possible.
Help us respect everyone no matter their beliefs, pronouns, culture, look, or lifestyle.
Help us respect everyone no matter their beliefs, pronouns, culture, look, or lifestyle.
Dear God, help us to get our masks on right.
Help us to get our masks on right.
Help us get the vaccine.
Help us to get the vaccine.
Help us work together to end climate change.
Help us work together to end climate change.
Help us protect animals and make the world a happier place.
Help us protect animals and make the world a happier place.
Dear Lord, give everyone who needs a smile a smile.
Give anyone a smile who needs one.